Hello, 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 everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic start to your week. Fantastic Labor Day. I am live on Labor Day, so says what you will about me. Now, we got a lot of crazy stuff, in the past week. I'm going to be covering some of it that I found interesting. The first thing is obviously Amandla Stenberg is going crazy on the audience over this cancellation. Now, she's not like, screaming and crying about stuff, but she has made some wild accusations about the fan base and about the critics of the show. And when I say fan base, I'm talking about Star Wars fans. I'm not talking about, the fans of The Acolyte, right? But Star Wars fans and the fact that they didn't like the show. She has some pretty incredible accusations. And also, it kind of just comes across as she's appearing foolish in a lot of ways. So I'm going to be covering that. Also going to be looking at a little interview piece from the creators of the Rings of Power that is rolling out. Did a review of the first 3 episodes the day it came out. Me and Wyatt did that. And so you could check that out. But I'm going to be taking a look at something that they had to say about the show in season 2. And it's just more proof that they're still trying to act like they respect Tolkien's work, but it's pretty obvious that they don't. And so I'm going to be, looking at that. Most of it is just kind of stuff that just gets under my skin. And I think it should be pointed out because it's just kind of hypocritical. So we're going to be taking a look at that. We're also got some big news about staying in Middle Earth a little bit. Some big news about Sir Ian McKellen, and possibly returning as Gandalf. So we're going to cover that news as well. But if you're here, so glad you're here. If you're watching on replay, so glad you're watching on replay. I hope you hang out with me. I hope this is enjoyable. Really have a good time, talking about movies and hanging out with you guys. And so yeah, I'm just going to jump right into it. Start with the first segment. So Amandla Stenberg is responding to the cancellation of The Acolyte season 2. And what she has to say, honestly, just kind of makes her seem pretty foolish, in my opinion, and just overall cringy. It's just very cringe, the things and the ignorance that she has to say. Literally, her point is to make everyone who is critical of the show seem ignorant, right? But ultimately, it just comes down to she's ignorant. It just sounds kind of nuts. So I'm going to play through this and I'm not going to watch the whole thing. It's 8 minutes. And the comments that are really off color are cushioned in between her rambling about, being really appreciative to be a part of Star Wars and that it was just a dream of hers and whatnot. But ultimately, it's pretty obvious that she's not a fan of Star Wars fans or the IP. She's just a fan of people who like to see her on screen, right? She's just a fan of people who praise her, even though it is unearned. So I'm going to start about a minute in, and I'll probably skip ahead a little bit. But yeah, just know it's just a lot of rambling. And so, yeah, we'll just get into this.
Of course, I live in the bubble of my own reality, but for those who aren't aware, there...
Oh, and by the way, this 8 minutes of her doing her hair. And I know this is like a weird trend where people are like doing videos while eating and doing their hair and putting on makeup. It's super, that's another level of cringe. The disrespect to be like, I'm going to thank all these people for letting me be on the show and that it was a real dream of mine. And I'm going to call out the people who are critical and racist and whatnot, that she brings that up. But I don't care enough to like, I don't know, set up a camera or do an official thing, or like even just pull out her phone like she did here, but actually focus on what she has to say. She basically says the equivalent of something that should be said in like 2.5 minutes, but it's just rambling because she's busy doing her hair. That's so disrespectful, in my opinion, that no, if she was thanking like Leslie Headland and the Star Wars people for letting her on the show, well, at the same time, it's a slap in the face because all you get is her spare time while she's doing her hair. Her, partial attention, right?
There's been a rampage of vitriol that we have faced since the show was even announced, when it was still just a concept and when no one had even seen it.
That's lies. There was nobody talking about the Acolyte outside of like Star Wars Theory, maybe a few people on Reddit, but nothing that got any traction until the trailer came out. Like we saw the Acolyte was announced, but we didn't know what it was. We heard that it had to do with the dark side. We didn't know what it was. I've been talking about movies for like 4-5 years. We didn't even bother talking about the Acolyte because nobody was talking about it till the trailer came out. Anyway.
And that's when we started experiencing a rampage of, I would say, hyper conservative bigotry.
Okay.
And vitriol, prejudice, hatred, and hateful language.
Notice she's just going through like all of the buzzwords that she's heard at, when her and her progressive friends go out to get coffee, right? Like she drops the word conservative in there with like bigotry, and those are not even the same thing. Like she sounds foolish because even if you are not in conservative politics or have conservative values, most people understand that conservative does not mean bigoted. It does not mean bigotry. It's literally just a set of ideas that has nothing to do with racism. It mostly has to do with economics, if we're being honest. The word conservative does not fit in there. So it just shows her ignorance and her bias towards anybody that's not essentially like Hollywood liberals, honestly.
Towards us.
Also, she thinks that everybody that's outside of her political ideology were the ones that were attacking the show, and at the same time are also horrible racist people.
And this really affected me when I first got the job, because it's just not something, even though I anticipated it happening,
You anticipated it happening because maybe you read the script and you knew it wasn't good, or you just go through life expecting everybody who looks at you to have a hateful thought towards you. And that's not the case. Outside of the fact that you were not emoting for your characters, Osha and May, in The Acolyte, there wasn't any hate directed at you. There wasn't any hate directed at the fact that you're a Black character. Star Wars has had plenty of diversity. That has never been the case. It is literally just buzzwords that she's been, encouraged to repeat. Probably not by Disney, because I don't think Disney's that stupid to attack fan bases and call them names when, they own an IP. And they're also aware that fans didn't like the show. That's why they canceled it. But the fact that she is literally being encouraged by probably her liberal friends to like repeat this or to say these things or to have these opinions that are just flat out wrong. There's no racism in saying the show was garbage, because it was. There's no racism in saying that the people who wrote the show don't know how to write or even respect Star Wars as an IP, because at the end of the day, it was a complete slap in the face and a complete disrespectful project towards Star Wars as an IP and the Star Wars fan base, because Star Wars fan base has been, especially, in certain circles like Star Wars Theory, has been very forgiving of Disney Star Wars. There's more cynical groups, and I would probably fall in them, that says I haven't seen a good thing outside of like Mando season 1 and season 2 and Andor that I like that's come out of Disney Star Wars. So I'm very skeptical. I kind of went into this knowing it probably wasn't going to be good, but I was blown away by how bad it was. This is on the same level as Kenobi for me, because Kenobi was just so incredibly terrible, and The Acolyte was even worse. It was so unenjoyable.
it's not something you can fully understand what it feels like until it's happening to you.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I would imagine so, that when a bunch of people are saying, hey, we hate the show you're in and you didn't do a good job acting, yeah, that probably hurts your feelings. I'm not going to take that from her. That probably hurts her feelings. Yeah. Is it deserved? Yes. Yes, because she got a bunch of money to be an actor in a Star Wars show, and she didn't do a good job. And it's not just her; it's the entire writing team. It's the creator Leslie Headland. It's Lucasfilm. They're the ones that failed the fans, and you are a piece of that. But let's not forget. I'll come back around to it. But she stirred the pot as The Acolyte was coming out. She stirred the pot with the fans. She poked the bear a bit.
However, I feel like I've kind of moved through those feelings in various ways, including being vocal about it.
And when she's saying being vocal about it, let's not forget the fact that she went on The View, right? And had a few words to say about how she welcomes criticism, but not, the racism, which ultimately what I saw online, and I watched a lot online and read a lot online that was critical of the show. I didn't see racism. I saw people saying the show sucks. The show was written horribly. It's not correct to lore. It's not an interesting Star Wars story, and it doesn't even make sense linearly. It literally is like poorly written storytelling, and the dialogue is horrible.
All the time. You have received horrific racist backlash, including threats.
And this is while the show was coming out, by the way. She went on The View.
And what you call intolerable racism, that is your quote. Can you talk about that a little bit? And what has that been like?
Yeah, I wouldn't be so eager to talk to someone in their early 20s about life experience when it comes to racism. Because first off, she's completely getting it wrong. She's saying that what the Star Wars fans did to her was racism. She clearly doesn't understand what true racism looks like. I don't understand what true racism looks like. She obviously doesn't. Like, she's the wrong person to be asking about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really appreciate you giving me the space to speak about it. It's been very painful.
Yeah, because no one else would.
For me, it's not something that I think you can emotionally prepare for. And we welcome criticism of the show.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't welcome criticism of the show because you got a lot of honest criticism that, especially at the beginning, was not mean-spirited outside of the fact that you guys spent a ton of money on something that sucks. There was no personal attacks because of the color of your skin. Let me also say, she did also stir the pot with this. You guys remember this? She released a diss track while the show was rolling out. When people were saying they didn't like the show, she was releasing a diss track at the fans. Now, there's some stuff in here about Trevor Noah as well. And I'm not going to say that it was all geared towards the fans, but it was because the show, like, she wouldn't have released this if the show wasn't, receiving as much negative attention as it was.
Splice lines make it, they recognize, making love.
By the way, this is garbage. This is not fun to listen to, and I don't want to listen to it anymore. Let's skip forward a little bit, because she brings in this other term that is honestly very ridiculous to even bring up, because again, it's more clearly seeing, like, she's exposing her ignorance when it comes to not only the world of, like, social justice, but she's exposing her ignorance in the world of movie making, what she is supposedly working her career in, right?
Because I'll just feel a lot of levity and joy around the fact that I got to experience it.
But yeah, you're doing your hair, so obviously you're so thankful, but you don't have time to make an actual video thanking the people. You have to be doing your hair while you're doing this.
And that people loved it, and
Who loved it?
That people were so responsive.
People who are not Star Wars fans like this show. And listen to what she has to say.
Poured through a lot of different iterations of fan art and ship art and fan theories and things that were just...
Okay, so she said fan art, and then she exposed herself by saying ship art. So it wasn't about Star Wars fans making art. It was people who are like Swifties and fans of, I don't know, the Twilight Saga. I'm not gonna hate on the Twilight Saga. Look, I didn't care for it, but it was interesting. However, Star Wars is not Twilight, and she's basically saying she got a bunch of ship art, right? And fan theories. I'm gonna guess those fan theories are around, sexual related things when it comes to Chimere and Osha. She exposed herself by basically saying this was a show about seduction. This was like hinting at, 50 Shades of Grey for Star Wars. She obviously, that's the people who watch this show. And that's what all the articles that were praising the show was about. Because no one was like, everybody who is a fan of Star Wars were like, I'm not a, I'm not, I'm not a, I'm not going to say this is bad. Like, have like a kind of, you know, love story or whatever that's really focused on the romance and kind of the weird nature of like the bad boy and stuff. That's not negative, but it's never been a part of Star Wars because Star Wars is about Star Wars. It's a story about wars in space and politics. And yes, there is some love stories in there, but that's a very side kind of thing. And this just took it to a weird place. The people who like those kind of stories watch this and not the actual Star Wars fans.
So beautiful and filled my heart with joy. And I just want to let those people know out there who supported us in that way, and supported us vocally despite and in the face of all of the vitriol that we received and the kind of the targeted attack, I would say.
Targeted attack, yeah, because you made a Star Wars show that sucked. You're going to get the attention of people who care. That's not targeted. That is truly just receiving criticism because you were in a show that's a part of an IP that is way, way bigger than yourself or anything that comes out of, the super liberal Hollywood.
We received by the alt-right.
We received by the alt-right. So everybody who hates the show, everybody who wrote a social media post about it, created a video about it, wrote something on Reddit, wrote a comment, talking about how the show sucks or something negative about the show. In her opinion, it's a targeted attack from you people who are the alt-right. That's what she's getting at. That's what lives in her brain. The only people that enjoyed this were kind of the people who were like, oh, I ship Chimere and Osha and I'm doing fan art and fan theories about their sexual relationship and stuff. That's the people who watch the show, not Star Wars fans. It's so obvious that is the case that anybody who buys into this half thought out point that she's making is ridiculous. I mean, they're just not living in reality. They just want their opinions to be embedded into Star Wars and not actually create a Star Wars show. They want their messages. They want all the politics of today's world. They just want everything that's like so kind of gross to be brought into a beloved IP like this. It has nothing to do with the real world, but has everything to do with good versus evil, has everything to do with, enslavement. And I'm not talking about American enslavement because there's no slaves in America. But I'm just talking about the real world politics being brought into Star Wars is cringy and it's not a good look. And even after the fact, when the show gets canceled because people genuinely didn't like it, you have the audacity to call them bigots and alt-right. And you also drop conservative in there. Like that's also a bad word. Maybe in some groups it's a bad word, but that's not even what conservative means. Yeah. Someone needs to get hold of Amandla and be like, hey, you're pretty young. You need to stop going on The View. You need to stop making diss tracks at the fans and you need to stop doing your hair sharing your opinions, because if you keep doing this, you're not going to be working in Hollywood very long. It's just bad look. There's money behind these faces. That's why these faces have to keep their mouth shut or they can really get in trouble. It's the same thing that's happening with Rachel Zegler and Snow White. It's the exact same thing. And maybe she's going to eventually Rachel Zegler might, close her mouth. But someone needs to get a hold of these young girls and just be like, listen, if you want to talk as recklessly as you're talking about a beloved IP like Star Wars and the fan base of Star Wars, when you were the lead actor of a Star Wars show. Well, if you want to talk reckless, you just can't be a part of it. That's what I would say. I would be like, look, this is in our NDAs. That's what I would say. Don't talk reckless. Let the show speak for itself. If people don't like it, move on. That's what I would say, because that's the truth of the situation. There was not a targeted attack because of the color of her skin. And yet, she makes it about that. So I don't know. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about Amandla Stenberg's comments. They're kind of wild, honestly. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about it. Did you like the Acolyte show? And did you, if you did you participate in any of that ship art that she was talking about? And also, if you did enjoy the show, do you feel respected and, like she was genuinely thankful to you, that she wanted to say thank you while is doing her hair and not really paying attention to anything? She's just kind of like, oh, this is my free time. I don't have any time to actually look at the camera and focus on the people I'm trying to thank and actually do it with my whole attention, do it with all my attention. She's just got to kind of do it while she's doing her hair. You know what I mean? It's a weird look. I don't like it. It's cringy. And that's about all I have to say about that. If you're here, let me know. Love to interact with you on this live stream. Got a couple more topics I'm going to roll through. But yeah, man, it's such a weird period of time with, Rachel Zegler, Amandla Stenberg, the Acolyte, the Rings of Power. Such a weird time where there's just like these forces, like with Disney and Amazon Prime Video, that are creating these really weird, not lore or canon respecting, not IP respecting shows, and expecting, like, it's literally the definition of insanity. So Disney knows that people didn't like Kenobi, and they also know that there's a handful of other shows that they didn't care. So the definition of insanity is, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. That's what they're doing. The fact that they spent a ton more money on Rings of Power Season 2 when they know, they have the data of how Season 1 did. They know the fact that only like 35% of the people who started the show actually watched to the end. Like, they're aware. And those Rotten Tomatoes scores, especially initially, they know the fans don't like the show. And they're spending so much money to make the show, not for the fans, but for literally the people who would do ship art, the Swifties, So I'm going to get into this next bit. The Rings of Power creators are still pretending that they respect the Tolkien stories and they respect, the universe, the Earth, the Middle Earth, in fact, that Tolkien had written. And I'm going to watch a little video here that kind of, shows that they're still pretending to respect it, but the show obviously is proving that they don't, right? So.
And to get right, how have you been feeling in the lead up to the end of Season 1 coming into Season 2?
Yeah. So how they feel coming into Season 2, after Season 1. Obviously, it's going to take a lot. I feel like it's going to take a lot for them to ever admit that fans really didn't like Season 1 and that they really did not appreciate. Not appreciating is a small word, but I don't think the fans appreciated what they did to the Rings of Power.
I mean, it's an ambitious show, large scale endeavor, and I think we like to
Large scale endeavor, ambitious show. Okay.
say, season one we built a pyramid, working with many close collaborators, and we had never built a pyramid before. No one had. Coming to season two, we're building another, but
That's about as close as you're going to get to them saying that they really screwed up in season one. They were building a pyramid, and no one has ever built a pyramid before. Well, maybe not on your team, but as far as I remember hearing that Rings of Power or Amazon Prime ghosted Peter Jackson. You're talking about someone who built a pyramid before. Peter Jackson, Fran Walsh, Philippa. I can't remember their last name. These are the people that built a pyramid already. So it's a lie when you say nobody had. Maybe nobody on your set, maybe nobody in your writer's room, but it's a lie because there has been people that's created a successful Middle Earth tale. As you put it, have built a pyramid. All right. So now he's going to talk about building the pyramid for season two.
now we have the institutional knowledge of having done it once.
Having done it once. How do you think that pyramid is from season one? You think it's strong? You think you're going to build a better pyramid in season two?
And you can only do it one block at a time. But I wouldn't say it was easier. It is a challenging and, as I say, ambitious show to make. But I think all of us were coming to season two with a really strong sense of what we wanted to do this time, where the show.
He's talking so cryptically. Let's get specific. Like, what is it you want to do? Because we watch the show and it becomes clear to us what it is you want to do. It seems to me like what you want to do is tell your own story and try to sell it as Middle Earth. It's not even what you want to do. It's what you are doing. I watched all of season one. It was a snooze fest and it was upsetting. I've watched the 3 episodes of season 2 that's out. And guess what? They're a snooze fest and it's upsetting. So they're building the exact same pyramid, to use his analogy.
Wants to live, what our lane is,
What's your lane, man? Be specific. I don't like this cryptic talk. Either tell me or don't tell me.
I think we're really happy with the results. Hope audiences are too.
And
No, we're not. We're not happy. They're really happy with the results. They have a really low bar, an extremely low bar, if they're happy with these results. Look, visually, there's a lot of really cool visuals in the Rings of Power. I will give them that. The visuals of the orcs, the visuals of, the mountain in Mordor bubbling over with lava, some of the landscapes of Numenor. There's some visually cool things. Is that all you care about? The visuals? Because the story's all over the place. The lore is non-existent. The characters are demolished. And Tolkien's creations are corrupted.
we're fortunate to have an embarrassment of riches in terms of the source material.
Oh, let's hear that again. What does he say?
Fortunate to have an embarrassment of riches in terms of the source material.
We're fortunate to have an embarrassment of riches of the source material. All right. Let's see what he has to say about this.
Tolkien's imagination is vast. It's an ocean, and it's
Right. And he wrote it all down.
the challenge is deciding which portion of the ocean you want to try to contain.
Which portion of the ocean you want to try to contain? Just pick one. You want to do the Rings of Power story? Just do that story. Just do that story. Yeah, you can write extra dialogue and you can write extra interactions that aren't elaborated on in the book, but that's not what you're doing, is it? You're fundamentally changing the story and the characters, and you are not sticking with the true timeline of events here. If you want to talk about, look, Return of the King, they have the appendices that they're working off of. Here's Return of the King, the story, and here's the appendices. All right. They have that much of a book to work out of. That much. Freaking that much. It's a lot of pages. It's like 200 pages. Just go through here and pick one, or pick a couple that happen at exactly the same time. That's all you have to do. So they're saying which part of the ocean they want to try to contain. Listen to what he says.
Imagination is vast. It's an ocean, and it's, you know, the challenge is deciding which portion of the ocean you want to try to contain.
Which portion of the ocean? Just pick one and tell that story. That's not what you're doing.
It's such a huge undertaking. How do you guys get your head around keeping everything in check and making sure? Because it's just huge. It baffles my brain how it's not just you two. There's hundreds and hundreds of people helping you out.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a legit question, because it is vast and it is a lot to keep track of. And it is a lot of people to try to, either say they're important or not important to include in the story. I understand that. There's a lot that's there. But the thing is, that's not what they're doing. They are telling their own story with characters that have their own story, but they're not telling those stories. They're just telling their own. They've removed the husband and daughter that Galadriel has, made her like a moody teenager who is shipped with Sauron. Oh my gosh. It gets me so upset to even consider this and think about this week after week. But that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to tell their own story, and the lore, what's written in the book, is Easter eggs. It's not actually the main plot. It's not the foundation you're building on. They're dropping in the lore like Easter eggs, and then the lore doesn't make sense because the lore doesn't fit with their timeline of events. With the creators' timeline of events, not Tolkien's, with the creators and their story and their falsified documents that they're trying to give us as if it's Middle-earth's Second Age history.
We have
such a huge undertaking.
We have a murderer's row of department heads and incredible collaborators.
Whatever, man. He's just going to go on and on about talking about people that work on this show, but we're not getting specific here. When will they address the fact that they are so far from the lore and the actual series of events that they're not even telling a Tolkien story? Let me see if they say anything else interesting here.
He was telling me the other day, and now I'm kind of obsessing about the heavy metal stuff
my
that's
God.
going.
Oh, apparently there's going to be a heavy metal soundtrack that's going to be introducing the cave troll or the troll or whatever. I don't know. I didn't notice if that was heavy metal when it first introduced him. It might have been. I wasn't paying close attention to this music. I was just observing. But listen, this is Rings of Power as a whole is not a Tolkien story. So when you go back to when he says that Tolkien's legendarium is vast and we have to just pick which part of the ocean to tell, you're not doing that. What you're doing is you're picking parts throughout the entire Second Age, thousands of years, and saying, we're going to drop this little piece right here and this little piece right here. But really, we're just inserting them into little slivers of the story we've created, right? They're not going to admit of their wrongdoing. Yeah. But they're still trying to pretend like they respect Tolkien, even when we're a season in, even when we are, how many episodes? 12? No, 13? Was the first season 8 or 10 episodes? I can't remember. Maybe it was 8. Even though we're like 11 episodes deep into this, 5-season show, we know what they're doing to the lore. We know what they're doing. And yet they have the audacity to still even bring Tolkien's name up. I think that's disrespectful on so many levels. The fact that they are still trying to talk as if they are interested in this story at all. Like I said, they're talking about just trying to select which one. They're just going through this appendices of Return of the King, and they're not selecting a section and telling that story. They're told they wrote their own story, and they're going through this and seeing what they can fit from this into their story. And then it just screws up the whole thing because it's not actually built on a foundation of cohesion and timeline of events and the things that the fans already are aware of. They're just telling their own story and inserting Easter eggs that Tolkien brought up and using buzzwords like Middle Earth and hobbits, or I guess Harfoots and elves, and the names of characters that aren't the characters in Rings of Power. The characters in Rings of Power and characters in this book that share the same name are not, in fact, the same characters. They're completely different. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about JD Payne and Patrick McKay's thoughts and all these weird interviews. They're doing a lot less interviews, by the way, with season 2. It's harder to find those. They keep giving the actors interviews, but it's a lot harder to find their interviews because I think they're trying to stay out of the thick of it. I think they caught a lot of heat from season 1 on the things that they were saying about their story and how they were respecting Tolkien's lore and everything, what they're excited for fans to see. And then ultimately the fans were not excited. It's harder to find real long, vast interviews with them. They're doing a lot less. But let me know what you guys think of these creators. Are they going to make it to 5 seasons? Are they just going to burn the bridge halfway through? Let me know. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Man, yeah, there's so much wacky stuff going on in the world of entertainment between The Acolyte and all the buzz post canceling season 2. The Rings of Power being rolled out. We're about to start, in like 2 weeks, Disney Plus is going to try to roll out Agatha All Along, man. And that is already just a complete cringe fest. I don't even know if I want to talk about it on this channel. Let me know in the chat if you guys want to hear about Agatha All Along, if you want me and Wyatt and Josh to talk about that show. I would be very happy to skip it. But if there's a big buzz around it online, I got to talk about it. But I already don't like it. Just watch the trailer. How many people watched the trailer and were like, yes, this is the show for me? I don't think it's the show for anybody, even Acolyte fans, man. I don't know who's going to watch. Who's going to watch Agatha All Along? Because that's a whole different fan base. There's crossover. You got Star Wars and Marvel fans are the same people, but the culture's completely different. Like Tolkien, Star Wars, and Marvel fans can all be the same, but usually there's different sectors. So I fall into more of a big fan of Star Wars, a medium fan of Marvel, but I'm a big fan of Middle Earth, right? And Tolkien's work. And so I really don't care about Agatha All Along, but I'm willing to talk about it. And I don't know if there's going to be that crossover. There were some people that liked The Acolyte, very few. But I don't know if those people are going to cross over into Agatha All Along. We'll have to see. But let's jump into this last bit. It's actually super interesting. I was pretty engaged with this. Ian McKellen is planning to return as Gandalf, but there's a caveat. And the caveat is kind of an interesting one. So Ian McKellen recently did a interview with Big Issue. And here we go. And the caveat for his returning as Gandalf is that they better be quick about it. So if you guys don't know, Ian McKellen's taking the rest of the year off acting because I think he has to heal a little bit, do some physical therapy. He was filming a movie, I think it's called The Critic or something, and he took a tumble. He's 85 years old, I believe. He took a fall, and he was really worried that he was going to receive damage to his body at his age. He can't really come back from, but it seems like he's improving. And so he's done an interview where he's like, I'm going to take the rest of the year off acting, but I am planning to play Gandalf again if they ask me and if they get moving. So his exact quote was, I've just been told there are going to be more films and Gandalf will be involved, and they hope that I'll play him. McKellen tells This Week's Big Issue. When? I don't know. What the script is, It's not written yet, so they better be quick. And I'm pretty sure when he says they better be quick, it's not because his slate is full, but most likely because he's feeling his age a bit. We've talked about this a little bit on the channel, about the new film that's going to be coming out, the new Warner Brothers film that Andy Serkis, the guy who played Gollum, and Peter Jackson, the Lord of the Rings trilogy director, is a part of. But he's basically saying, like, kind of what the fans have been saying. If they're going to bring him back, they better hurry up. And he's now saying they better be quick, right? And especially I believe he said there's going to be more films, so plural. And we know for sure there's going to be one because they've already announced it. Andy Serkis is going to be directing it. So if you guys don't know, I'll get into a little bit of the details there. There's not a whole lot of new news outside of Sir Ian McKellen's saying, I want to be a part of it as long as they get it done quickly. But I just thought I'd let Nerd of the Rings give you a little bit of an update. I always go to Nerd of the Rings YouTube channel, and he always is on top of stuff. And so I just thought I'd let him describe a little bit and react to this video. This is an older video he did about the news, but he breaks down some of the information nicely.
While we were live streaming, we did have other news and confirmations come out. We've since discovered that this first film is called Hunt for Gollum. That seems to be a working title for now. That was confirmed on Andy Serkis's Instagram account. And we also learned that Andy Serkis will be returning not only to play Gollum, but also to direct the film.
Which is interesting. I believe Peter Jackson's going to be involved, but Andy Serkis is going to be the director of the movie. And I don't know if it's the hunt for Gollum. There's a lot of characters involved in that stage in between, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Rings. There's a lot of time there, and a lot of it, there is the hunt for Gollum. And there may not be as much focus on Gollum because it's literally, there's a lot of characters that are looking for him, including Gandalf. I don't know.
And we also learned from Variety that while this project is in the early stages of script development by Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens, also involved are Phoebe Gittins and Artie Papagiorgio.
Okay, and so he just gets into some of the details, and then he talks about War of the Rohirrim coming out later this year. I did want to just plug, I know this is not our content, but I did want to plug his video where he did it 3 months ago, where he does explain kind of like the book version of The Hunt for Gollum. I think he likes to do this because he understands they might not stick very true to it. But let's sample it real quick, like just a little bit, and then you guys can go check his video out. It's Nerd of the Rings YouTube channel, Hunt for Gollum book version. Hold on, let me share my tab.
Of the Lesser Rings, made essentially as a warm-up before the Great Rings of Power. While the realization and confirmation would come much later, Gandalf has concerns in his heart about Bilbo's ring from the first. As he would...
Yeah. And this is a really interesting video. If you guys are wanting to get just like a, 15-minute breakdown of that period and what the hunt for Gollum is in the books, you should check out this video, Nerd of the Rings, the Hunt for Gollum book version. It just came out 3 months ago. It's really good. It's really informative, and it actually can get you real excited if you're a Tolkien fan about the upcoming movie. The hope is that since Peter Jackson is involved, and the hope since, Andy Serkis, although I haven't enjoyed all of the movies he's directed, especially like the Venom movies and such, the hope is that since he was a part of the original trilogy, creators, or at least involved as an actor, and that all of the creators like Philippa Boyens and all of them, Fran Walsh, are coming back to work on this under Warner Brothers. I'm hoping it's interesting. Now, it is a prequel, right? It's a prequel to The Lord of the Rings. It is a sequel, not really a sequel. It's the halfway point in between The Hobbit and The Fellowship of the Ring, and when Gollum leaves the cave to search for the ring that was taken by Bilbo, and Gandalf's journey, and a bunch of other characters that are really cool. But yeah, so overall, I think if Ian McKellen is coming back to play Gandalf, that's a big win. I would love to see it, with the hopes that they get it done timely without sacrificing quality, because I do want to see him over recasting. And it seems like he's good with the idea. He's good with the idea. The only issue is just kind of like, can it be done in time? And since he's already slowing down, like he's already said, he's taking the rest of the year off acting. He's already slowing down. It might be a big get, right? And he did mention in an interview I heard he does know what project he is working on in January, but he's not going to tell anybody what it is. It could be some obscure film. He said it is a film. It could be this. I don't know. He said he hasn't seen a script or anything, so maybe not this. But he does have something lined up for January. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I'm curious. Would you guys like to see him come back? Do you think he's, getting there up there in years and you just prefer him to, be recasted? So there's a little level of introducing a new face without it being a hard stop when he's out of acting, whether by choice or forced to. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Obviously, he's a beloved Gandalf character. Him acting as Gandalf is amazing. It's going to be very difficult to recast a new Gandalf for a film that, has Andy Serkis's Gollum and different people. And I'm pretty sure Aragorn is a part of the Hunt for Gollum on some level, if I can remember correctly. It's been a long time since I read the books. But if that's the case, they might be bringing back Viggo Mortensen. I don't know. We'll see if he wants to be involved as well. My hope is that we do see a little bit of a reunion of the old cast without sacrificing quality, because they have to do it quickly. I know it's been a long time, but it would be so nice if they could do it well and the makeup's not like obvious with their age. Again, let me know in the comments. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Hey, thanks so much for sticking with me. I'm going to end it there. I'm tired, man. I talked about The Acolyte and Amandla Stenberg. Talked about the Rings of Power. Ugh, that always takes that out of me. And I think ending with the potential of seeing like a little glimmer, I don't know. They could still completely ruin it, but there's a glimmer of hope with Middle-earth Stories, hearing that Ian McKellen is planning to come back as long as he's able to, and it's done in a timely fashion, that he hasn't just said no, that he hasn't just completely said no to the opportunity. That's hopeful. And so I just want to end it on a hopeful note. But let me know in the comments. Thanks for joining me on this live stream tonight. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Labor Day, I guess, if you're in America. And really appreciate you all. We'll see you next time. I'll be live again tomorrow night, so catch me then.